Charlestown, the Majestic Knights of Columbus.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another segment of the old and new historical facts about Charlestown, sponsored by the Charlestown Historical Society. I'm your host, Billy Boyle. Today's show is one that has been forgotten by a lot of the town people because it happened in the 50s and 60s and beginning of the 70s. I'm talking about the old Majesticknights Drum and Bugle Corps and the Color Guard. With me today are two past members of the Majesticknights, Joe Ryan on my left and Jimmy Walsh on my right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up with Joe Ryan, seeing that he's the senior member here. And I mean that because he was in the Corps before the three of us. Joe, when you went in the Corps, what year did you start in the Majesticknights and how was it formed?
It was 1957, and it was kind of I don't know, Bill, if you remember the David M. Cleary posts.
Yeah, but
some of those kids that corps had broken up, and some of them had gone over to the Majesticknights. And I knew some of these kids, although I had nothing to do with drum corps. I had an interest in it, at watching the parades and stuff like that. Kind of a follower, like a lot of people that get into drum corps. And what happened was they needed somebody to fill in, and I knew how to march from being up Charlestown High. You were in the schoolboy parade, and that's how I got started.
But wasn't there the cadets before the Majesticknights?
Oh yeah, but that was
St. Mary's Cadets.
St. Mary's Cadets. The Majesticknights formed in '57 when I got in there.
But was it the follow-up of the cadets? Did they join, or some of them?
Yes, all of them came with us. Well, actually, it was a mixture of the Cleary Post and the cadets, which formed the Majesticknights.
No, I got in '57, but I think later than you, and I was a horn line. I was the third soprano. You have 1, 2, and 3, right? First soprano, second, and third.
Right.
And then you had bass baritones and all this stuff. A lot of people don't know what we're talking about, but we're trying to explain how a corps is set up. And then you have the drum, the march and the maneuvering has to coincide with the music from, I think, so we have a drill instructor? How does that work?
We had a drill instructor who was, at the time, let's put it this way, Fred Allen was our horn instructor.
All right.
Ralph LaLiberty was our he was our drum instructor. And then we had kind of a mixture of, we didn't really have anybody, the two of them were kind of doing the job. And then a guy named Tom Condon came in, and he did the marching.
Now, what class? How did they start? What classes were they? I know when we were in, I think Jimmy went in. We were already in Class A, but we had to start in Class C, B.
It might have been C, but when I got there, it was B.
Oh, all right.
And we just kind of blew everybody out of the water. We probably had 18 contests that year, and we won 19. 18, we won 17. And they moved us from B to A the next year.
All right, now we're into the beginning of the 60s. I think we're in the A, 59, 60.
Yeah.
But Jimmy's got some tidbits too, I think, about. He remembers from the 59s and 60s.
Well, I do, but only because I'm a student of history, and I want to thank you so much for the privilege of sitting here. This is a great honor. It really is.
It's fun.
It's a real privilege. I can lend some additional factoids to what Joe's offered, just based on just doing this, shooting the breeze and having cups of coffee with Bobby Holland, the late Bobby Holland, and Ron Taney, Richie Powers. I mean, just there was so many of that original founding generation,
was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just a pup, just literally a pup, at the knees and absorbing this. Jerry Nye has this history down pat, but as it was explained to me as a young pup, even a little bit earlier than 57, but Joe's in the absolute correct time frame. A couple of gentlemen from St. Mary's, Bill Potter, told them, went to the street.
Yeah.
Kenny Ray's father, Bill Ray, and the clergy at St. Mary's got together in the fall of 54. There's a gentleman by the name of Warren Shanahan, who later on, you might remember Warren. He was incredibly
Warren came in about a year after.
Right, an incredible snare drummer. And Warren committed words on paper that actually attempt to tell the story of the Majestic Knights. And as Warren explains it, a group of clergy with Bill Potter, Mr. Ray, Kenny's father, a number of parents in the parish, were looking for something constructive for the kids to do. And as I was told, a number of returning vets had personal experience in Drum and Bugle Corps as part of their military experience. Of course, we know the Drum and Bugle Corps activity paralleled a lot of American Legion activities post-World War I, pre-World War II. So there was an impetus of adult interest in doing something for the kids that I'm told crystallized in or about October of 54. And the David Clary chapter, as I understand, had a drum corps, disbanded, and those kids came over, I'm told, just about the same time that you mentioned, Joe. As I understand the history, the original organization marched under the name of St. Mary's Cadets.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think we gave Robbie a photo that shows a massing of the corps in the choir loft at St. Mary's or in the front door of St. Mary's. It's a rather impressive large gathering of kids, all in their very first handmade uniforms. It's a very impressive photo, and I believe that was 1955. There was
2 years before.
2 years into Class B, and then what Joe's group really has the single distinction of, and what they really deserve an attaboy for, and this was absolutely remarkable and meteoric in terms of accomplishment. Joe's predecessors went from not knowing a lick of music, not knowing left foot, right foot, from October 54 to winning 2 circuit Class B championships in 1958. You mentioned the 15 victories out of 16 contests. What was still the St. Mary's Cadets won the Eastern Mass Drum and Bugle Corps Association Class B title in 58 and the CYO music circuit.
Yes, we did.
And you might remember the CYO finals, Billy, at White Stadium every September, the 2-day music festival that was run by the Archdiocese of
Do you
Boston.
remember the one loss we had? Does anybody? I remember it. So
Yeah.
you don't remember who we lost to? The IC Rockettes.
All
The
girls.
girls.
All
You
girls.
got
I
it.
know
Yeah.
it. I can
Oh,
tell you.
oh, no,
I can
it-
tell you a
right.
quick story on that.
Sure.
One of our songs, at the end of the song, we would say, pull the
Ole.
horns down and say ole.
Ole.
Well, in CYO, they would not allow us to do that.
Right.
And we had the second contest. We had done we had a contest. I can't remember when, but we went down to Norway and we faced them. And we had won the contest. And I won't say the guy that one of
I
the
did.
kids
Richie
said.
Kirby.
No, it wasn't. It was
Wasn't?
It was Johnny Murphy.
Oh, John Murphy.
He pulled it out and he said ole, and we went oh. Sorry about that. And we knew, it was against us, and I knew they were gonna.
Well, at the time, you got to explain. Everything was a tenth of a point, but when you speak in
It was a
CYO, it's a
Full
whole
point.
point.
4 points.
So we lost something like the IC Rockettes won it, like 87.54. We had 87.43 because we lost a point. We would have beat them and been undefeated. I remember that
Yeah, absolutely.
because, but we still had a tradition of what, win or lose. We always did what when we get home. You remember? We used to march down the streets.
We always
Win or
won.
lose.
Well, I remember that very specifically.
Yeah.
And it had a lot to do with the reason why I wound up joining the Corps. My experience starts, I refer to my experience as maybe chapter 3. There's the founding chapter. That's Bill Potter, Bill Ray, as I mentioned, Bonnie McCabe.
Tom O'Toole.
Tom O'Toole, right? And then, as I understand, Joe, after the trip to Miami in '61, there were immense financial pressures to keep what was now St. Mary's Majestic Knights. It moved, it switched the name. I believe a gentleman by the name Mike
Holobowicz.
was responsible for coming up with the name Majestic Knights.
Yes. He actually, I'll give you another thing. He helped design the first uniform that we went from the cadets uniform
the very
to the
distinctive
blousey
uniform.
type thing with the V.
And all the other corps all over Greater Boston and New England absolutely loved that uniform.
Mikey had a
very
an eye for
distinctive,
that.
really
Very.
terrific design. But I refer to that era from '54 through '61, 9th place Miami VFW Nationals, unheard of in terms of how much the Corps accomplished over such a short period of time. That's probably chapter 1. And then there's Tom Healy out in Malden, who deserves a big attaboy, and hello Tom, for just trying to keep facts in place and collect memorabilia. He explained that the financial pressure going to Miami was pretty immense, and the church said, we can't afford it anymore. And the Corps basically, at that point, had broken up.
We had fundraisers to do it.
And there was the move to the Majestic Knights of Columbus. Chris Callahan, Dick Wyman, thankfully, stepped into the breach. And the council, and I think all of us, 3 brothers, stepped up to the plate to preserve the very existence of the Corps for 62, 63, and I believe a bit into 64. And then from that point forward, it was truly an independent organization, and it was hard scrabble, fundraisers galore, penny sales galore, and Mike Mullen off of Albion Place, he deserves an immense amount of credit for keeping things going right up until the point of the merger with Kevin's in '70.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something going back. Charlestown only knew us as a marching corps. You know, they'd see us the 17th of June.
Sure. Right.
And we really didn't have the Charlestown backing. Or the following. Well, the strange thing happened. The townies were a Friday night game over at
East
Boston Stadium.
Right.
They never knew we were coming.
Mm-hmm.
They never knew we were putting on an act. And it's full with Charlestown people. And we show up, we line up, and it says, oh, this is Majestic Knights. Well, they never heard us do our routine, which was fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
And we hit the line, and the shock on the people's faces, and the cheering we got, and even the townies came out of the dressing room to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, the Majestic Knights became part of the Charlestown family.
I heard that story, and to that era, and that era really establishes the foundation that allowed us, the younger kids, to join the Corps later in the mid '60s. My jump off point is August of '64. I literally walked from St. Martin Street over Cook Street to see Mr. Faulkner at the corner of Cook Street and he gave me my first soprano.
Herbie Faulkner.
Herbie Faulkner's father, right, Mr. Faulkner. But if you talk to alumni in the Greater Boston area, New England, and then they get together, socially. There's a pretty active Boston Crusaders alumni, Kevin's alumni, Beverly Cardinals alumni, St. Mary's Cardinals. If you talk to any of the older gentlemen and gentle ladies who marched against MK Charlestown, they'll tell you that the 1960 Majestic Knights, 61 Majestic Knights, 62 Majestic Knights, those 3 years, MK Charlestown was on par with the very best drum and bugle corps in the entire country.
Absolutely.
And proof of that is if you take a look at the scores from those 3 years.
Yes, you do.
MK was consistently scoring in the middle and upper 80s in each of those 3 seasons.
Yes, I will.
If you take a look at the finalists for Detroit, VFW, 1960, if you take a look at the finalists, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 1962, MK's scores from the 60 season and the 62 season are clearly in line with the final scores of the finalists for those two VFW championships. And of course, we go back to '61.
Right.
And what the Corps did there was just nothing short of incredible, finishing 9th out of 52 entries in Miami, traveling to Miami 2 days by train. I know there's a photo somewhere of Cargo Brennan rehearsing on a train going to Miami. So
It's probably one of me sleeping there. So.
But that, from a competitive standpoint, that really establishes the remarkable bona fides of how good MK Charlestown was for that particular period of time. And that particular period of time is what generates the reputation that MK has in an alumni circle state. And then probably the 68 and 69 course. What had happened is a gentleman by the name of Leo Maloney, who was living in Medford, but I believe had Charlestown, got together with Mike Mullen and formed a junior corps, a cadet corps, a feeder corps.
Right.
And that was the '61 season. And that junior corps marched very successfully in Class C. Stevie Owens was in that corps.
Yeah.
Jackie Dewey was in that
I remember
corps,
that.
right?
He became the drum major.
Right. Jack Kelly's daughters up at Grant Court. Kathy Kelly, Anne Marie Kelly. The Supries.
Right.
Maybe just a ton of kids
Charlestown families.
that were clustered around the Bunker Hill Armory. Eddie Callahan was in that
Right.
corps. Right. But that
we
corps.
I know we were talking about people
Right.
back in my time, but we left two really great guys out. Dan Doherty, who lived
Sure.
up the hill, and his father Butsy.
Oh, but
Oh, absolutely.
But
Those
absolutely.
two guys
Right.
were
But you got to remember too, the women started the booster committee.
Right.
Ellen Jordan.
Ellen
Right.
Jordan.
Ellen
yeah.
Jordan started the booster committee with the mothers of the corps, and those are the ones that made the old uniforms up for the cadets. And then they were there, got us ready, made sure we were all dressed when we're getting off the bus when we get to the comp. But we got to let people know this wasn't strictly just a marching
Well, you read
band.
my mind, Bill.
This was a very competitive organization. We went to concerts, or I should say competitions, Saturdays and Sundays. Eastern Mass on Saturday, CYO on Sundays. And we marched, and it wasn't all fun, but we practiced 3 nights a week.
Right.
Weekends. We used to use the Oily. We used the Armory, St. Mary's Hall. The people down there were glad when we quit because they were so
Yeah.
used to us practicing at night, 7
Sure.
to 9. But we were off the streets. It was a place for us to go. It was fun.
Well, let me
One
just interject and give you an idea, an actual literal idea of how that schedule worked. Because, as I said, I was in the Class C Majestic Knight Juniors. As the summer would approach, I'll give you 1966. We would have a practice on a Friday night, most typically at the Bunker Hill Armory.
Right.
We would have a show, typically an Eastern Mass show on Saturday.
Yes.
Right, the shows would be Saturday evening, Everett Stadium, Chelsea Stadium, Braintree. We travel all over the area. To get ready for that show, I would be in the house. My mother, hey, drum corps your activity. I'm 10 years old and I'm learning how to iron my own uniform slacks, polishing my white bucks, cleaning the soprano bugle, all right, getting everything ready, packing up, going to the Army, meeting the bus, going off to the competition, coming back maybe 10 o'clock at night,
Right.
and getting up Sunday, going to church, of course, and then doing a CYO show
That's right.
that Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And that literally kept us off the streets and got
All
us,
week.
it gave us places to go and people to see and things to do in a very constructive way with some very good adult leadership involved in the activity. So,
We're a little remiss about not mentioning the color guard.
sure, by all means.
I mean, they were fabulous, and they won their own contest.
Yeah, they won a few competitions
Yeah.
themselves
In the
on
winter,
color.
right? There was a winter
and
color
they were,
guard season.
They were separate from
Right.
us when they did their
Right.
routines, but when we marched the parades,
Right.
they were right with us.
Well, Cookie
Every time.
Giordano, right?
Yeah.
Roseanne,
The two Powers
Right,
girls,
right. Ruth
Carolyn,
Ellen.
Virginia, Ruth Ellen,
right? And
Canty,
how about out in Waltham, Kathy McMiniman, Kathy
Kathy Brennan.
right?
Yeah.
I was thinking
Helen McCarthy was the leader.
Right.
Helen, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
later Sandy Carroll, Jimmy's sister, right?
You had Carol Powers.
Right.
Right.
And Virginia was in our color guard with Billy's
Right.
Rosie,
sister
my sister
Rosie, and my
Rosie.
wife.
And how about a name that I've heard from Malden? I never met the woman, but I've heard of her. May Sloan?
Oh yeah,
Right.
she was the leader. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was very, very good.
Right.
And a real big point that brought us a lot of fame was we'd get off the buses up by the pool, no matter what we did.
Yeah,
Come
right
in
by the
third, come in
church,
second, come in first. If we would come in first, we'd carry our trophies. But the Charlestown people were waiting for us on Saturday and Sunday nights.
Yeah.
We'd line up outside St. Francis. The nuns would come out. We'd play for them. Cargo's old song,
Yeah,
Now and
Forever.
Forever. Peter Looney's
Right.
show used to be
Right.
named after that, the TV show.
Right.
That was his
Right.
theme song, Now and Forever. And we'd march down, people that hear that Now and Forever coming down Bunker, and your pride on us, just marching in our own town. It was awesome.
At 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, and
The
nobody would
kids-
complain.
People
Yeah.
will be out there with their children. The kids would be cheering.
Right. And we used to stop at St. Mary's, the nuns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what time, they come out with their
Yeah.
habits on, and we play a little couple of songs for them, and then get down Winthrop Street and finish up for the night.
Yeah.
But that was that was, no matter, even when we
Sure.
lost, people said, you even do it when you lose? It's a tradition now. We
Yeah.
have to do it.
Yeah, but losing for us was probably second or third.
Well, I
It was
just
a
said,
big deal.
I don't think we ever come in lower than third
I don't
in
think we
the
ever
4
did.
years.
Yeah, well, the golden era is probably 60 to 63, and if you check
Yeah.
the placements of the Corps, 59 was a tough year because it was a growing year. It was the first year in Class A. But if you take a look at the 4-year period of 60 through 63, and you go pull out the old scores, MK Charlestown is consistently first, second, or third. Very few placements below third place in
Right,
those
right.
those 4 seasons.
1960 over the arena.
Drumfest.
Shocked the world.
Drumfest, right?
Shocked the world. We had bought all the uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we got the belt with the
cross belt.
cross
So
belt.
the
high-
We
high
come out,
Eisenhower jackets.
we come out,
Yeah.
and we marched out there, and the crowd was, oh, well, who's this? They didn't even know who we were.
Red, white,
And,
blue,
and they
right?
announced it. When they announced it, we picked up our horns and slammed them against the belts. You could hear it all over the place. And then we popped up, and boom, we started. And we come off the line there, and the place went nuts. Now St. Kevin's and
The Boston
Crusaders.
Crusaders.
had gone on ahead of us.
Sure.
And they were fighting for first place. They
Right.
thought they didn't know. And they come running out. Who the heck is this? And they come running out, and
Wow.
we might have come in third.
To stay on
We owned the crowd.
To stay on the theme of competitive success, particularly during those 4 seasons, and the remarkable achievement that Joe and his generation accomplished, the St. Kevin's Emerald Knights, God bless them, tip your hat to them, fabulous drum and bugle
fabulous.
corps, right?
Fabulous.
Right, the Boston Crusaders started out as the most precious blood Crusaders out of Hyde Park, Cleary Square. Boston Crusaders were formed in 1946. St. Kevin's Emerald Knights 1 year later,
Yeah.
1947. When you were competing against St. Kevin's Emerald Knights in 1960, the St. Kevin's Emerald Knights were already 13 years old.
Right. Yeah.
MK Charlestown, as I go back to that point, October of 54, not knowing a lick of music, not knowing how to put left foot in front of right foot,
Right.
to 6 seasons later, taking on St. Kevin's Emerald Knights in the backyard and hanging very tight with them competitively. You know, I think there might have been one show in the 60-61 era where MK Charlestown actually did defeat St. Kevin's. We'd have to go back and look at the
We
scores.
beat them in Somerville.
But to be able to compete at that level in such a short period of time is an absolute compliment to Joe and his generation. And as I said, that set the foundation for the second group and then the third group. Unfortunately, by 1970, what basically happened to close out the timeline, Joe's group, there was an interest in aging out. The competitive rules would allow you to march through your 21st birthday.
Correct.
So there was a sustaining interest in maintaining older membership. By the time 69 came, my brother Kevin's group, my brother John's group, Jerry Nye's group, Stevie Marshall, that era, Kevin Coleman, God rest his soul, there was less specific interest and less specific ability, quite frankly, to march through your 21st birthday. So there was a little bit of a drop in elder membership, senior membership, most experienced membership, but most importantly, the feeder system, the second grouping of Majestic Knight Juniors, simply was not large enough to populate the A Corps when Mike Mullen and others needed guys and girls to move up to the A Corps. They only moved maybe 9 or 10 of us in '69. So the Corps was basically lacking in membership, and to be competitive by '69, you really needed to have a Corps of 85, 90 members in order to project that powerful brass sound and compete on a level with the 27th Lancers and the Boston Crusaders and others. The same thing had happened over in Kevin's, over in Dorchester, up in this corner. And basically, the decision was to put the two programs together. The kids got along fine. Kids got along fabulously well. But you have entrenched traditions and you have entrenched ways of doing things. And the adult leadership of that merger year, I tip my hat to them, Paul Flaherty in Dorchester, Tom Cundriff here in Charlestown, trying to make it go. But it was just too much. It's just overwhelming. And, mercifully, at the end of '70, they decided best to just let traditions lie and let this thing go.
I think we're about running out of time, guys, but I'll tell you, very interesting. Like you say, people of Charlestown, you really don't hear much about the Majestic Knights, the St. Mary's Cadets anymore. It was quite a program. It got us through the late 50s, early 60s, late 60s, and it kept a lot of people in Charlestown busy. And it was quite an enjoyment. I enjoyed every minute of it. Jimmy enjoyed it, and Joe. Any last words? We got to wrap this up, people.
Well, I just simply want to say thank you to the immense number of adults that were involved with this. In my era, specifically Bill and Millie Walsh, Bob and Maggie Urquhart, Florence and Sonny Newenshaw. A very special thank you on behalf of my brothers and Kevin Coleman and that generation, to Mike Mullen, and to his wife and his family. There's just an endless number of adults that all of us, if you put the uniform on for one day, 1 week, 1 month, one season, there's just a tremendous number of people that we all owe a huge thank you to for taking the time to be interested in us. So I just want to say to all of you out there that helped make it happen, thank you very much.
Joe?
Same thing, but I was personally glad to, although my brother Teddy was only in for a couple of years, my brother Teddy, my brother Frankie, and most of all, my wife Rosie of 55 years, who I met in drum corps, and I don't think I have to say any more about that.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Charlestown, I hope this was a good show. I enjoyed it, and I know there's a lot of people out there who are always wondering whatever happened to the Majestic Knights. I mean, you can go, somebody brings up the name, you go, oh, you had a drum corps back then? Because you haven't heard anything about it since the 70s. So it sort of fell to the wayside. So the Historical Society thought they were part of Charlestown in the 50s and 60s and the beginning of the 70s, worth to do a little story on them. So with that, I just want to say it was a pleasure having two former members with myself being a Majestic Knight, all three of us.
Thank you, Billy.
It was enjoyable. And again, Charlestown, remember, thank you and respect one another.